My name is Fraser.
My name is Mark.
And we are the hosts of the geekiest show alive. To the outside world, we're ordinary geeks.
But in the Fab International Studios, we talk comics and find other geeks just like us. This is Geek of the Week.
Messages from the Multiverse. And how prepared are we? We've already got a jingle for it, so...
Have we?
Here we go. Now, we can't reach you at Geek of the Week, so we're going to need you to leave a message. So this is Messages from the Multiverse. This is the first segment. Now I may have to work on that intro.
I did not know that we had that intro. And I just looked at him and I was like, what are you on? But I like it. Keep it.
It's good, isn't it? It's like a phone, you know, the Deadpool sort of thing. Yeah, it works, right?
Good work, Fraser. So, I'll give you that one.
So the way Messages from the Multiverse is going to work, like we constantly mention any time we can do, we've got the Facebook discussion group, we've got Twitter, we've got Tumblr, we've got YouTube comments below, and basically we're sort of going to bring like a topic up on sort of all of them, try and spread it out, so if you follow us on one or all of them, you can sort of, you know, voice your opinion.
Any way you want.
Voice your opinion on it. So it'll be a topic, we'll sort of... it'll be one that's, really deep in discussion, all about personal experiences and just getting different perspectives, because I do really enjoy this show, and I like, because Mark and I, again, we sort of clash sometimes.
We do.
Because we've got different opinions.
But I think
that's... But we still get on as well. And I think that's what makes this show interesting. So getting more opinions just makes it even more interesting. And I hope that this part of the show does exactly that. Now, the topic we're talking about now is, we mentioned it a couple of weeks ago when we talked about Free Comic Book Day. Mark gave us a very lovely story about the first time he went into a comic book, and it sort of stemmed... Comic book store, yeah. Oh my goodness, could you imagine if you went inside a comic book?
It'd be like Jumanji, but better.
That'd be epic. Well, there is a Gwenpool sort of that sort of thing, but oh my goodness. What comic would you... Maybe that could be the question next time. What comic book would you like to go into?
Not Outcast.
Not... No. But that's not the question we're doing now. So the question, we reached out on all those different platforms we mentioned before, those different social mediums, was we wanted to get to know people's first times at the comic book store. And Mark's got two he's going to start off with. This is from our Twitter and Facebook.
Before we start, your choice of hashtag was a bit in
there, bro.
Hashtag my first time.
And then ... hashtag at a comic book store.
Yeah.
I preferred my other one, which was hashtag my first journey into an unknown world. No, or like my journey into an unknown world.
That was too long, but my first time was potentially cataclysmic, so let's move on from that.
Could be, yeah. I think I've been reading too much Sex Criminals. It might be.
Sex Criminals is brilliant, though.
Which is coming on trade off soon.
Oh, sorry, spoilers.
Carry on.
Oh, nobody likes spoilers, I'm sorry. But no, I've got the first one up. Is a former presenter of this show back when you did it in Aberystwyth on the student radio. We've got Jacob, and he tells us that he was bought 2 cable comics by a friend, and they were from the 90s, and he said they get more money the older they are. So he never opened the bag or read them. and then he bought Uncanny X-Men Volume 1 5 years later.
5 years. So he bit of it, but...
So he never actually made any money from those cable comics and ended up spending probably astronomical amounts, because I know I do for the show, so astronomical amounts on comics since, just because someone gave him 2 copies of cable.
Being his flatmate, we both spent a lot of money on comics. Yeah. We did not help one another. We were both enablers. But it's one of those things, and I think it's funny enough, actually, because Jacob, we went to a comic book store once, and it's a very similar story. He bought me a first issue, I think it was like Clone's Conspiracy, one of the recent Spider-Man stories, and that got me back reading like Spider-Man in single issue form. I was like, oh, why, Jacob, why? And then I got like the whole story, and I was like, no, I'm going to keep going. But it is like, that's a cool, interesting way. I feel like sometimes if you're one of them and you're trying to get your friends are always like down to watch the films and TVs with you, and you just want them to read comics, just get them a comic. That's all you need. Just one comic. It's just a little it's a little gateway. Yeah, don't be giving them like how like. I know Howard the Duck can be quite good.
Don't be giving them Hulkverine.
It depends what they're into.
Yeah, it's true.
Actually, to be fair, any comic can appeal to anyone, really. So, yeah, as long as you get the right them and know them. I mean, come on. Someone tried getting me into anime once and started me off with Bleach.
Do you mean manga?
No, like anime.
Oh, the actual anime.
Anime. And they started me off with Bleach, which, if you watch anime... It's very intense and stuff like that. And one of my other friends, who's actually successfully got me into anime, was like, why did they start you off with Bleach? And I was like, I have no clue, because now like I'm watching different ones. It's like, yeah, it makes more sense.
I think I'd probably start people off with Attack on Titan.
Yeah.
For anime. And manga, to be honest.
What would be your go-to comic book to suggest to someone or to maybe give to someone?
Let me have a think and I'll get back to you.
I was going to say,
it'll be something imagey, but let me have a think.
I think mine is
Swamp Thing.
Swamp Thing, yeah.
Run on Swamp Thing.
Yeah, mine's surprise, surprise, is probably a Spider-Man book. It'll be most of the time though, because a lot of people I talk about, obviously they know that I'm Spider-Man obsessed. Well, just Spidey obsessed.
You are.
So they'll talk to me about that, and they'll always talk about we always talk about the cartoons, because that's how I got into it, was the cartoons and stuff like that, or the films. Obviously, we like Tom Holland now and Tobey Maguire back then, and Andrew Garfield did his bit as well. But they'll talk about that. So I always sort of suggest the Ultimate Comics. That would always be my sort of thing to go to. And it's funny, this story, actually, because he mentions Cable, who's a time traveling character, and he does the whole he talks about the whole thing about the importance over time. They get more and more expensive, and they get more and more value. And I was like, is that time travelers or the books?
I'm not sure that's true.
No, I don't think
those issues with Cable aren't worked.
Well, that's the thing, and that was. The impression in the 90s was, because Action Comics and stuff like that, these big first issues were making serious money. You can still get a load of money from now for rare things. People in the 90s just collected comics, as in just collected them for the sake of collecting them, not even buying them or buying an extra issue. And sorry guys, they weren't worth it. But if they get you into comics, then I guess it is sort of worth it in the end. And then you've got a second one, and this one's from Facebook. The first one's from Twitter.
I have. It's Benjamin Linney, and he said that it was a dark and dingy shop, but he went and got lots of Judge Dredd comics, which is great.
Yeah. Right up your alley, that.
Then his mum made him throw them out. And I mourn the loss of the Judge Dredd. 2000 AD should not be destroyed.
But no, it's one of those.
That's a sad story.
It is. You know what? There's quite a few. I will admit, this section this question brought up a lot of sad and nice stories.
See, my original story.
Yours was nice. Yeah.
Kind of we were hoping for all positive, but throwing away Judge Dredd.
We got a mixed
travesty.
I know. And this sort of dark thingy, that sort of. I don't know, there's some stereotypes with comic books and comic book stores, and they're all going to be explored with the ones we talk about. But this one's a big one. It's that dark, dingy room, and it's just sort of it isn't really inviting, is it? But there are comic book stores, and I feel like they're the ones I always go to when it's bright lit up and it's nice, and there's someone nice behind the desk. Now, we did. I am a part of the Planet Broadcasting Great Mates group, and it's basically, there's a load of podcasts in Australia, and they have a little group sort of thing, and it's a great place for discussions as well. So I sort of threw it up in there as well, because I was sort of interested to get international things. And there was one, Ronan Kelly. I hope he's happy. I hope they're all happy me saying the name. I mean, I did put it out there on the comments, and some people seem to like it and be okay with it. But he was saying how comic book stores aren't really a thing where he's from, and he don't think he's ever stepped into one that's, your typical one you see in the films, the stacks of comics.
Sad.
Like the, what film is it? The film that...
Let's just go with the Big Bang Theory.
No, the green suit. Do you know what I mean?
What?
The green suit. What's his name? Doesn't matter. It'll come to me later. But yeah, most of the ones he's gone to have been filled in merchandise and big omnibuses and movie tie-ins. And I guess there are more and more of that, because that's the
way they're going, isn't it? They've got to make a buck.
And like we said in Pull or Pass, there was 9 DC comics out this week. You've got to find a way to make your money, and if it is these omnibuses and the merchandise, Pops. I see Pops everywhere.
Oh, I don't like Pops.
Not a fan of Pops.
No.
Like, one of them, because I know, like, as soon as I buy one, I would have them all. Kick-Ass was the name of it. Sorry.
It's Kick-Ass.
But I know if I had one Pop, I'd have them all. So it's, I don't know, it is kind of sad. Like, I think I was very fortunate that I had a local comic book store in Aberystwyth where I went to uni, and it was kind of a nice experience. It might perked me Wednesday up, definitely. Let's get another one up. So this is Douglas Bennett Greenwood, again from Planet Broadcasting, great mates, and he says, I'm just making sure I'm not stealing marks here. I'm not stealing marks, it's all good. The first time I walked into a comic book store, it was a hybrid of a comic book and gaming centre. I saw a group of kids from my school who had a reputation of being violent and rude, and I promptly left.
Oh, that's a shame.
It's really, yeah. That again, there's one of these. There was a couple that were quite sad, and it's like just those barriers that are there. Obviously, the comic book store there couldn't help the fact that there are violent kids being in there. But there is, again, comic book stores aren't just comic book stores anymore. They are sort of, you get these hybrids with gaming centres.
Yeah, the comic book store I go to is I buy my board games from them.
Yeah,
I'm really into board games, so I get my board games and my comics from the same place.
That's what.
It's a geek shop, really.
It is, yeah, and that's more and more becoming it, and more using less of the name comic book store. They'll do like a geek store, they'll do like something Nest or something like they'll find a name that sort of like doesn't just limit them to comics, but makes them be able to do more. Like the store I went to back in Aberystwyth became more and more games because that was just making them more money towards the end. But there was comics there. We've got a fun fact as well. Richard Ryder put, the owner of Comic Kingdom in Sydney inspired comic book fat guy from The Simpsons.
Amazing.
Because a lot of these experiences, and a lot of what I thought my experience would be The Simpsons. You know, when you go in and you see the comic book guy, I thought that was going to be it. So do you want to... you've got 2 as well from the Planet Broadcasting groups. Do you want to give them a whirl?
Yeah, next up, you give me the one with the name that I might mispronounce, unfortunately.
That's why I did it.
Kuima, or Kuima, Kuma Lewis, and says, I think the first time I went to a comic book store, I walked in, looked around a bit, saw the price tags, thought, good grief, I'm so broke, and walked out. And
that's us on when we go to pick up our pull.
well, yeah, it is these days. But that's the thing about this is a hobby, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
And hobbies are expensive. You could do exactly the same by walking into a games workshop. You could do exactly the same by walking into, I don't know, a shop that sells model aeroplanes that you make from scratch. To an outsider, yeah, it is going to be pricey. You look at a comic book that's going to cost you £3.99, and you think, what could I get for £3? That's a pint.
And that's one part of the story as well, because I think the reason why comic book stores are dipping more and more, and on that just single issues, is because you can get a trade for like £8-10, and that's 6 single issues. So that's 6 lots of 4. And it's in one big bulk thing. You don't have to keep collecting. There's not that hassle of going back in every week. And
there's a reason why trades are popular.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
it.
But Marvel tried to fight back with this. And what they would do is, I remember because I loved it, whenever you got an issue, you also got a digital copy of another comic. So it made it more incentive. Like, you pick up the book that you know you want to read, and you might check out an old book. It was really cool. I got to check out a load of books I didn't get to. But then people were moaning. I think owners were owning because it's like, oh, but then they're not going to buy that book. And it's like, yeah, but they were doing digital books that no one was buying anyway, and it was working. And now it's a flawed system because you get the digital copy with the physical copy, and it's like, if you've already got the physical copy,
what do you need the digital copy for?
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, no, there is a very much feeling of when you get your pull, you're like, yeah, I'm broke. But then you read the comics and you get slightly more happier.
Well,
but yeah,
who needs money when you've got comics?
Exactly.
And it's the same for any hobby, isn't
and
it?
it is, again, just to harken on the Amazon thing, sometimes I find myself doing this and I feel really bad. Even when, like, if I'm picking up a trade from a comic book store, I'll look at the price at the comic book store and then flick on my phone, just check a bit of Amazon, which you shouldn't do. I've been doing it less and less, trying to support local comic book stores, especially the one where you go to in Manchester, because they're very nice.
They are.
Do you want to go on to the next person?
This is my last one. I've got Ben Newlin, who says, when I was about 15 or 16, he was condescendingly told by a clerk that it's pronounced manga, not manga. And his reply was, I don't care, because I don't read that anyway. And why, when you're in such a niche market, why would someone behave like that?
Why would you try and pull it away? And it's that thing I'm talking about with the comic book guy. And we've got another one with Rachelle Atcliffe, who says, my first comic book store experience was a comic book guy. I was 15 and it was awful. He was sexist and neckbeardy, and me and my then girlfriend, we were very mad. The next time, but luckily, the next time was better because she got a signed sketch of Rorschach done before her eyes by David Gibson. How sick's that? But yeah, so it's that horrible thing. I'm glad that Rachelle went back though and managed to get a good experience. But it is like, why would you? It's difficult at that business alone. Why would you make it harder for yourself?
This whole section, I expected it to be full of positive, nice, likeable stories, and unfortunately, it's not. And it seems that, well,
I'll tell you what, I'll finish. We've got two more.
Quickly, we're nearly out of time. Tell the good ones.
This is a good one, and then we've got a funny one. So Josh Moore goes, I went in and met the dude that ran the store because I was after Alan Moore's Swamp Things run. Funny that you mentioned that, innit?
Swamp Thing.
He didn't have it, but then they got chatting, and he ended up spending like £40 a fortnight in there for about 2 years, and then they chatted all the time, played online quizzes, and generally had a great laugh. I recommended loads of stuff and became friends. And
nice.
Me and Jacob did that with Robin, who owned the comic book store near us. And there is that thing of like, if the person is approachable to you, you can become friends because it is a niche market. And again, it's like, it's a hobby that is niche, so you will find people and you can talk to people. It's great. Now, here's a funny one, and this has definitely almost happened to me, and it comes full circle because it's talking about Free Comic Book Day. Michael Flack talks about how he went in for Free Comic Book Day when it was a new concept and thought that he could take any comic from the thing, and the owner shouted at him that he had to put it back.
Oh dear.
And there's some other people who have commented that thought that was the exact same thing. Lucky for me, when I went in, there was a stand that said Free Comic Books, and it was very clear. They're a bit more clear now, I think. When it was early on, it wasn't as clear.
Whoops.
But yeah, whoopsie daisy. But that has been the first messages from the multiverse. If you didn't get to share your story this time, but you want to share an experience, still put it out there. We'd love to hear it. We're going to do more, so follow us on the social medias so you can get your voices here, because that's when we'll try and discuss. We'll talk about the question before we actually do it on the show. But yeah, it'll be on the social media for sure.
Maybe try and do it once a month.
Yeah, of course.
To listen to Geek of the Week, be sure to tune in next week. Same geek time, same geek channel.
And if you want to follow us on social media, it's at GOTW Radio on Twitter. Search for Geek of the Week Radio Show on Facebook. And to listen again, it's www.mixcloud.com/Geek of the Week Radio Show.